So now Pierce is arguably the best rookie running back, and he is certainly the Texans' #1 running back. You think the Eagles might have some issues with him tonight, sans Jordan Davis? And a good undefeated Thursday morning, Birds fans. You got your Mac guys here on Birds 365. What we have to admit is kind of a weird day, weird show, weird situation the Eagles are in. Eagles put their undefeated record on the line tonight against a team that they should, by all rights and means, handle quite easily. But you never know in the National Football League. We're here to give you some insight for the next couple hours. Got two good guests coming your way. You got me, Jody McDonald, in my usual ocean setup. And then we got Jody Mac with the privacy curtains hanging in the back at the luxurious Marriott that he's staying down in Houston. No travel issues yesterday, Mr. McMullen?
Well, there were some, but, just nothing serious, just the run-of-the-mill. Travel is not easy in the modern era. Let's put it that way, Jody.
With security needing to be what it is. All right, glad you made it down to Houston safe and sound, as did the Eagles. I don't know if you happen to come in at the same time. The Eagles did. Big Marvin Wilson.
I beat the Eagles for once. I rarely beat the Eagles. I beat the Eagles down here.
So don't know if you heard. A little birdie told you. It sounds like you didn't actually see the team arrive. Big Marvin Wilson on the plane, because we know that Jordan Davis wasn't officially put on IR yesterday. So the Eagles have a spot on the defensive line to fill with a player. And I assume that's the way they're going to go, rather than bring up someone else from the practice squad to play a different position. You tell me. We're certainly going to talk about how Jonathan Gannon will deploy his defensive line sans Jordan Davis going forward. But first things first, do we know who's getting the call up to the big leagues, to the roster, to replace Jordan Davis?
No, that's an interesting question on Thursday night games. I'll try to look into that as the show goes on, because normally for a Sunday game, you have to make those decisions by Saturday at 4:00. But I think there's some dispensation for the Thursday night games, but to tell you the truth, I don't know offhand. I got to double check that in one of the breaks. Either way, because of the short week, I don't think you're going to see much difference in how the Eagles, and I think they're going to try to cobble it together with Marlon, Tui Pelotu, and Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave. A little bit of everybody trying to do what Jordan Davis does for this defense. And then they'll have the 11 days or whatever it is in between Houston and Washington on Monday night. And then I think they'll come up with a more concrete plan. They're going to have the roster spot. They might even bring Marvin Wilson up to the 53. But I do know I talked to Milton Williams before I left, and he said, well, that's not my job. Those big packages. I mean, he's a 3 technique. So it's got to be Marlon. It's got to be Javon Hargrave. It's got to be a little bit of Fletcher Cox. And let's be honest, they don't want to play there. Not Marlon, but Fletcher and Javon, they're not comfortable playing in that position. That's a lot of the reason why Jordan Davis is here to begin with. And Javon wasn't that effective doing it last year. He was a great pass rusher, but was not a very good run defender. So it's something to keep an eye on. Certainly, what bothered me most about that, Jody, was Nick Sirianni, while I was on the plane, did his press conference and was still playing coy with Jordan Davis. And hours later, he goes on IR. I mean, what are you doing, Coach? Come on.
He loves every minute of that competitive advantage, Jody Mac.
I mean, well, that's more inside baseball, I guess, so it's not that big of a deal for fans. But I just don't understand it. I really don't. There's a lot of goodwill around this team. There's no use doing stuff like that. Everybody knows he's hurt. Everybody knows he's, the only question was, is he going to miss 4 games, or could he maybe push and be back for that 4th game? And obviously, maybe then you carry him on the 53 for the latter. But it's a 4 to 6 week injury, best case scenario. I mean, it's a big deal. Just say week to week. Do it, Doug Peterson. Stop the nonsense. My one request.
And you request, everyone else who covers the Eagles requested. The coach hasn't changed in a year and a half now. He truly believes.
Oh, he's worse this year, Joe. He's worse this year than he was last year.
You think so?
Yeah, he was a little bit more honest last year. This year, maybe the perfect record is, maybe superstition is creeping into it.
Don't know why the coach in this one particular thing does it. Well, I know why he does it. I just think he's misguided in that they're somehow getting this major advantage by keeping the other team in the dark about how injured their players are. It's pretty well out there that Jordan Davis had a high ankle sprain. Yeah, we knew it. You knew it. I knew it. All the Eagle fans knew it. The Texans knew it too. So, coach, you got to kind of give it up. But it's now water under the bridge because Davis is on the IR, which means he's going to miss the next 3 games, one of which includes the Colts, who we know can run the football. Can't do a hell of a lot else, but they can run the football. So that will be a game that we're going to have to keep our eye on. But Dameon Pierce is the guy who will carry the load tonight for the Texans. Pretty darn good rookie running back. I think you make the argument that he's as good as any other rookie running back in the league this year. I was kind of a Breece Hall fan with the Jets up until when he got hurt. So now Pierce is arguably the best rookie running back, and he is certainly the Texans' #1 running back. You think the Eagles might have some issues with him tonight, sans Jordan Davis?
Boy, I don't think they should. I mean, any other week I would probably tell you, yeah. I mean, you know how I feel about Jordan Davis, and I think his impact is bigger than most people realize, even though he doesn't play a ton. This is a bad football team, Jody. I give Jimmy Kempski going the Clemson route. He went, it's not like Clemson is scheduling Wofford. I like the Wofford reference, but I always go Alabama, Louisiana Monroe for Doug Peterson purposes. Where in college, there are certain points of the schedule. They're off weeks. Let's be honest. There is literally no chance for those teams. It's not the case in the NFL. This is as close as you get. I mean, this is as close as you get for a team having, even on the road in a short week, where this should be a logical loss for the Eagles against an average team. If they had to go 1,500 miles on a short week, no preparation, even at 7-0, I would look at this game and be very, very wary against a 500 team. This is a bad football team. This is a team in the conversation for being number 32 out of 32. And you start talking about players like Dameon Pierce, because what else are you going to talk about? I mean, Brandon Cooks is a good player, but he doesn't want to play because he didn't get traded, and he probably isn't going to play. He missed practice such as it is this week with personal reasons because he was mad at the Texans for not getting him out of there. So Jonathan Gannon was Lou Holtzen, as I like to call it, Lou Holtzen up Dameon Pierce earlier in the week. What else are you going to do? But I mean, this isn't a player that's going to scare you. And you should be able to load the box and, maybe make up for Jordan Davis's absence that way against this team. They have a bad offensive line with the exception of Tunsil. Their first round pick, Kenyon Green, is getting beaten up. He went viral. Jeffrey Simmons put him on skates last week. I mean, 6 yards back in the backfield. Yeah, I mean, you got to talk about somebody. So you talk about Pierce, but no, it's not like Derrick Henry, who we'll be talking about in weeks up the road. So, I guess you got to talk about somebody. So they talk about Dameon Pierce.
Well, I think the guy's a little more legit than you do, but again, something the Eagles overall should be quaking in their boots for. No, you're right. He's not Derrick Henry, but I do think he is a legit, good starting NFL back, considering he's only got 7 games under his belt. I don't know that they have that many other guys that fit that role on this team, John. Your point that they're just a bad football team, they're 1-5-1 on merit is accurate, including their starting quarterback. You missed out on him yesterday. Our buddy John McClain hopped on, who last year had told me, look at the way Davis Mills is finishing up. Those last 5 weeks of the season, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. And his numbers did say that. I just didn't like the talent. I didn't like the way he threw the football, and I didn't think he was a starting NFL quarterback. And when John was on us yesterday, he said, yeah, the kid has regressed badly this year, that things have gone backwards for him. People are having trouble remembering the couple of good games that he played at the end of last season. Now, there's somebody you can't even force feed. That is completely and utterly attempting to find an angle to be able to talk about. Davis Mills does not scare me a little bit coming into tonight's game.
No, and he's a cautionary tale of those late games of a season where your season's already over and there's no pressure and you play from behind a lot. So maybe you put up some statistics, and it's just a big difference from when you're expected to go into a season and compete and win games, and all of a sudden things go poorly as they have for Houston. Unexpectedly. I mean, he doesn't have a ton of talent around him, and they've had some bad breaks. And they drafted John Mechie, who was, I thought, a good pick, and it's certainly where they got him as a potential slot receiver. Everybody probably remembers him from Alabama, and he got diagnosed with leukemia. So hopefully he's doing well. Cooks is still a good receiver, but he doesn't want to play for this team. You mentioned Pierce. Tunsil's a really good tackle. So there are, I always say every team has good players. And that's the case in with the Texans. Steve Nelson, our old friend, is playing well down there. You mentioned Desmond King. I know leading up to the trade deadline, he's playing pretty well. The front sevens, I'm looking at it real quick. They're not playing. Jerry Hughes is sort of like their Robert Quinn. But he's playing better than Robert Quinn was playing in Chicago. He's old, but he can still rush the passer. And they were looking to move him because he still had some value. They have good players, but not a lot. Not a lot compared to the rest of the league.
Johnny, let me run this by you, and then we're going to punch up our first guest. Guy's never been on the show before. I've had him on my radio shows over the years as a guest, and he does a good job. Got a new gig these days, is covering the entire NFC East for Fox Sports. Ralph Vecchiano is going to hop in with us coming up in 5 minutes from now. Dave Zingaro wrote a fun piece yesterday on NBC Sports Philly about the Eagles not falling prey to boredom, that with a 7-0 record, a little distance between themselves and the other teams in the NFC East, and a schedule that says the Eagles should continue to win, you have a little bit of a fear with boredom. And he said you shouldn't worry about that with the Eagles because of Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelsey. The leadership on this team and the coaching on this team won't let that happen. But I have a partner who does a show with me every day called Birds 365, who says, don't ever forget about human nature, that sometimes human nature creeps its ugly head into things. And if ever there's a game to get bored with, that would be tonight's game. No hometown crowd, no real opposition. Oh, by the way, the crowd that's going to be there will probably be more interested in the Astros and Phillies than they will be the Texans and the Eagles. Is boredom a potential pitfall for the Eagles tonight?
Yeah, it is. I think they will be bored. In fact, I would be surprised if they're not lackadaisical at times, but they're still going to win the game. I mean, Jalen Hurts is coming back to Houston to play for the first time. I think he's going to want to perform at a high level in front of his friends and family. I think that's part of it. that combats it. Oh, Eagles fans are taking over that stadium. My flight down here, Jody, all Eagles fans. Uh, early in the morning, it might be kind of annoying, but I mean, all Eagles fans coming down to go to this football game. Many dressed in Eagles gear and Phillies gear. They were doubling up. By the way, did you see the Astros put up some high level trolling? They got an old picture of Jalen Hurts and his Houston stuff. High level trolling from the Houston Astros. But he's coming back to Houston. He's going to want to perform at a high level. But I expect some, if you want to call it boredom, if you want to call it human nature, whatever. It's a short week. There's a lot of people saying they can throw their helmets out there and beat this team, which they're probably right, those people. So I expect some boredom-like moments in this game.
And I know that you had to get down to Houston so you can get all the availability. Did Jalen comment on the fact that he's not only from Houston, it's a going-home game, but that he grew up as an Astros fan? Has he been able to dodge that bullet all week?
Oh, yeah, he dodged it. Yeah, he's great at that stuff. He said, loves Houston, has a lot of respect for Houston, grew up in Houston. Philly's my home now. He shouldn't even have to answer those questions, but he does because of his position. But we know who he's rooting for, and that's fine, by the way. You shouldn't worry about that. He can do, he's not, it's not a big deal. You and I have talked about that before.
Exactly. That's one of the things that I do laugh when it comes to fandom and dealing with fans on the radio and callers and the like. You expect the players, just because they're drafted in a town, to forget that the first 20 years of their life existed. Oh, no. As soon as you put on a Philadelphia uniform, you got to be a 4-for-4 guy and root for every single thing. If a Philadelphia kid did that, if he had been a Flyer fan, Sixer fan, Phillies fan his entire life, and he landed with another football team, you'd say, oh, of course you have to keep your Eagle loyalty. Well, no, you got to go become a fan of the other team because you expect the guys who come here to Philadelphia to do the same thing. It is. It's as hypocritical as it is. I do laugh when that stuff comes up. But again, just another nod of the cap to the Eagles quarterback, because he never gets tripped up by this stuff.
No.
He is so narrow focused and so on point that even when something like this, because who cares if he's an Astro fan? Except, of course, when the Phillies and Astros are playing in the World Series, then it does become at least a talking point. Not in Jalen Hurts' sphere, because he does. He has the ability to just keep things narrow focused and on the task at hand. And the task at hand is getting this game over and done with, staying healthy, winning by, if you're planning on betting tonight's game, at least 2 touchdowns, since it's up to 13.5 now. Eagles a 13.5 point road favorite. Damn. You're right. This does, on paper, seem to be a mismatch. We shall see. All right. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. Coming up next, we're going to have a first-time guest here on the show. Not a first-time guest for me. I've had him on my radio show many a time over the years. Did a great job writing for a couple of New York outlets. He's a national guy now for Fox Sports, covers the entire NFC East. We'll talk all things NFC East next with Ralph Vecchiano of Fox Sports here on Birds 365.